Hello, and thanks for joining us on our next episode of DA TV. Most of us know Scott Stoki as our newest Vice President of Engine Services, a man focused on engine efficiency, team safety, and building our engine programs. But when he's not overseeing the construction of our newest designated overhaul facility, he's in search of a different kind of speed. For nearly 20 years, Scott has been a staple at the Bonneville Salt Flats, defying the limits of physics in a 1985 Trans Am he built himself. Today, he steps away from aircraft turbine engines to talk about a different kind of speed. Scott, thanks for sitting down with us today. But before we talk about your racing hobby, I want to talk a little bit about your role here at Duncan Aviation. As you step into this vice president role, you are taking over a department that has seen a tremendous amount of growth in the last 5 and 10 years. What is your day one priority to keep that momentum going?
A lot of our credibility is based on the quality products that we put out to our customers and the customer service that we give along with that product that we put out. So that is the number one aspect that we want to continue on with, is our quality and our customer service. And that's going to carry us forward into the future.
Yes. This year, in 2026, we are on the verge of opening our new 36,000 square foot designated overhaul facility. How does this new authorization change the level of service that Duncan Aviation is able to offer its customers?
So the engines that we're getting authorized on for the Pratt & Whitney line are engines that are on the aircraft that are currently in our hangars. So in the past, we would be able to service the airframe and the other aspects of the aircraft, but the engines would have to get pulled and sent to another facility outside of Duncan Aviation for repair. So this new DOF authorization is going to allow us to better serve our customers by keeping that engine maintenance in-house along with the rest of their aircraft service.
And what engines do our DOF give us authorization for?
So it's all the Pratt & Whitney 500 series engines, along with the Pratt & Whitney 308, 307, 306, and 305.
Very good. Now, you've worked closely with Doug Alleman during this transition. What is the most important piece of advice or leadership philosophy that you will be taking with you as you move forward?
Well, Doug's given me a lot of advice over the last few years that I've been working with him. Several things that he shared with me, one of them being his perspective on situations that may arise that I come to him for advice on, and he will give me the advice, but he always says, "You do it the way you want, though. That's just my advice." So I think a takeaway from that is to be myself and, use the knowledge that I've gained in the industry and in the engine shop over, my last 21 years here at Duncan, and to use that to help make decisions that carry our shop forward.
It's clear that you have a vision for your shop that is based on quality and customer service and a very high standard, but you also have a passion for a different type of high performance. In fact, you spend a lot of your time off pushing the limits of speed that most of us can't even imagine, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Right on.
You've been racing at the Bonneville Salt Flats since 2006, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. How did it start? Was it a mentor, a family member? Take us back to the beginning on how that started.
Just growing up, I grew up in a house where my dad had classic cars and was into, building engines and working on classic muscle cars. So that kind of got into my blood early. And what kind of got me into the Salt Flats was reading about it in magazines. I always got Hot Rod Magazine as a monthly subscription. So that was, there were always articles in there about the Bonneville Salt Flats and about the people and the cars that race out there. And that has, that always piqued an interest in me and seemed like something that would it was like, wow, that'd be awesome to be able to do that someday. But, you know, it seemed like a pretty far out there option, and nothing that seemed realistic at the time. It was just kind of a cool thought. So after I went to A&P school, and after that I was on a trip out to see my brother in California, and we stopped at the Bonneville Salt Flats, not during a racing season, but just to stop there. And, you know, that kind of brought back all the thoughts of the magazines I'd read and articles and all the speeds that have been set out there over the years. I mean, the first cars to go 300 and then 400 miles an hour and 500, 600. So standing on that ground out there was like, wow, this is where all that took place. That's really awesome. That is kind of where it really set in with me, that's something I want to actively pursue and see what it takes to get involved in.
And when was that visit?
That was in 2004.
2004.
Yep.
And 2 years later,
mm-hmm.
you're on the track.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What were you driving then? Was it the Trans Am?
No, that wasn't the car I took out the first year. They actually have an exhibition class
mm-hmm.
out there, and it's called the 150 Club. And so the goal, you're not running on the full track, you're running on a 2-mile portion of the 5-mile track, and you're trying to run in between the speeds of 150 and 160 miles an hour. So I have the car I had in high school was a 1968 Pontiac Le Mans, and I still have that car. And so working with my dad, we put a roll cage in it and made all the safety upgrades required to go run in this class to try to get into this 150 club. So along with that, I contacted the organizing body that runs the event out there, and they put me in touch with a team here in Lincoln that's been racing out there since the 80s. So that's the John McKeegan and Tim Schultz, and they ran the Speedway sponsored Streamliner out at the Salt Flats there, and they've done 300 plus miles an hour with that car. So they were experienced veterans of the flats, and John had me come out and kind of gave me a lot of tips and advice of how to get prepared and what goes into racing a car out of Bonneville. So working with him and working with my dad to get the car ready, we were able to get set up and make the trek out there in 2006 to run at the September event. And I was able to make back-to-back passes at 150 plus miles an hour and get into that 150 club. So that was my first year running at the Salt Flats.
What was that? Describe what it was like that first run in 2006. What was that like? It
was, I guess, one of those sensations of like, wow, this is really happening right now. It's kind of surreal being there and with all the other cars and vehicles and people, like during the actual event. It's like, wow, this is what I've read about, and I'm actually here. I'm not just watching either. I'm participating, and
I'm actually doing this.
Yeah, I'm doing it. It's happened. So that was cool.
Was it an instant obsession, or were you terrified?
Oh no, there was a little nervousness of what it's going to feel like, because I mean, it's not like concrete. It's kind of a loose surface, the salt. So I didn't know, if that was going to be as like driving on a gravel road or what it was going to be similar to. So it was actually pretty stable. There was a little bit of movement, the car moving around on the surface, but it was a cool experience. I wouldn't say I was scared. It was just, a little bit of nerves for the unknown, and everything calms down, as soon as you start to go, everything is quiet. And
when you're on the track,
when you're on the track,
actually on there, it's very quiet.
It's pretty quiet. And,
wow.
I guess you're in the moment, or just you're not thinking about anything else. So it's
So you were going between 150 and 160,
yeah.
But that's not the fastest you've ever gone.
No, that's correct. That was just kind of my intro to the sport.
What's your personal fastest?
The personal best is 241 miles an hour now.
241.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And when did you reach that?
So that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
The year that I hit that, 2024. 2008 was the last year I held a record. That was in the D engine class with a 302 cubic inch engine, and I had that record held at 222 miles an hour for a year, and then it was beat the next year.
For a year. How long do records typically stand? Just year to year?
Yeah, it could be year. Some records stand for 10, 15 years. Others they get knocked out year after year. So, in the production car class, like where I'm at, where people are using production cars and modifying them, that's the more popular classes. So those records do get bumped pretty often, as it's a class that has a lot of competition.
Wow.
After I ran that exhibition class, now I wanted to get into the competition class, so I was able to purchase a car that had been previously raced out there but had been sitting unused for several years. So this John McKeegan, he knew of this car that was sitting here in Nebraska, and that person was wanting to get rid of it because I knew they weren't going to be racing anymore. So I took that car and got it upgraded and prepared to continue racing, and that's still the one that I use today.
Was that car purchased in 2007?
Yeah.
So
yeah, actually I bought it in 06 in like December, towards the end of the year, to start so I could have it ready for the 2007 meet the next year.
Nice. So this will be your 19th year in this car?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
And I haven't gone every year. I mean, there's years that I haven't made it out, but for the most part, I do try to make it every year.
What makes this car so special? Why this car?
Well, at first it was just because it was the most accessible, and but the reason for choosing like this body style is due to the aerodynamics of this Firebird. The drag coefficient and the frontal area make it efficient for high-speed racing. It's a body style that allows for an easy passage through the air due to the shape of it.
Sure. Okay. Now, what's the engine under the hood?
So it's had a lot of different engines over the years, as different things have broken and upgrades and things like that. So right now it's a small block Chevy based engine. It's a 372 cubic inch power plant, and it uses nitrous oxide. It's naturally aspirated. It's carbureted, and that's what I use to reach that 241 mile an hour speed. Wow. But it's all, it's aftermarket components. The block is not a factory production piece. It's an aftermarket piece. The cylinder heads, everything's, custom work, custom made to be able to get that kind of performance. So the classes out there are based on cubic inch size. Oh. So different. They rate them from AA down to, I think, J or HIJK, K motors. Mm-hmm. So the AA being unlimited cubic inches, and the lower letters of the alphabet being really small, like 1 or 2 cylinder engines. So. And
your class is?
Been running in the C class, which is from 307 cubic inches up to 373. So I'm right at 372, at the top end of that cubic inch class. And so it kind of goes that as you go up a step in the class, the speeds keep going higher in general. There's cases where that's not true, but in most cases, that's the way it is.
How did your knowledge of aircraft engines help you build this engine?
It's the precision that goes into building an aircraft engine, and the focus on quality and accuracy is what helps me put an engine together that's going to last. And I have a lot of other friends here in the racing industry that have helped me in gaining knowledge on race car engines and what goes into making an engine last at those kind of speeds and RPMs.
Wow. Okay, for those who don't know what Bonneville is like and what the Salt Flats are like, can you describe the racing event a little bit? Like, when is it? And how many people in cars usually show up?
Okay, yeah, there's generally 3 events per year. They start in August, and so this is in western Utah, right on the edge of the Nevada and Utah border, and it's on a dried up lake bed. So this lake, it's an ancient lake, dried up, thousands of years ago, and left a crust of salt, and it's miles long. It's up to 15 miles long, of this dried up lake bed, and it's flat and it's smooth, and as long as the salt is hard, which can change from year to year based on how the water evaporation happens, it makes for a great racing surface, and there's no obstacles, there's no trees or anything, you know, there's no ditches to fall into. It's just a wide open space to race. You know, when you get there, you get the car prepared, you put get your parachute installed, because I don't keep it installed all the time. You want to have it packed freshly when it's out there so it doesn't get stuck on you. So you do that, you go through, make sure the engine's tuned the way you want it to be for the run that day. Then you can't drive your car in the pits or on the return service roads or anything, so you have to use a push truck or a pull truck to pull your car around. So we hook up to that, we tow it down to the starting lineup, and you know, it just depends on how many vehicles are in line. They just run one car at a time, and you could wait 15 minutes, you could wait 3-4 hours, depending on just how many people were in line at that time. So it's a lot of waiting, and then things start happening really fast as you get to about 5 cars back. Then it's time to put the driver's suit on and get all your safety equipment, your helmet, Hans device, gloves, shoes, safety restraints for your wrists, and then start getting strapped into the car. I can't do it by myself, so someone else has to like help reach some of the clips and attach points to get me secured into the vehicle. And then you sit for, I don't know, another maybe 10-15 minutes, depending on how quickly they're running, which when it's 96 degrees with all that equipment on, it can get pretty hot. And then, you know, then you start, as you get closer, you get, you know, start feeling the adrenaline a little bit, and then it's your turn to go. And there's a starter on the line that signals you to get pushed off. So I use a push truck to get me started, because the gearing is so low that it's difficult to go from a standing start. So you get pushed up to about 25 miles an hour, and then engage the clutch and take off from there. So at that point, that's when you just focus on getting to the end.
And the actual race, you're down there in what, 30 seconds?
It's about a minute and a half.
Minute and a half.
Yeah, to cover those 5 miles.
Wow. All that for a minute and a half.
Yeah. And then after that, you know, you pull the parachute, slow down, and then pull off onto the return road, and then wait for your chase vehicle to come get you. And we usually repack the parachute at that point, and then tow the car back to the pit stall, go through, you know, pull all the spark plugs, check tuning on the engine, and get everything reset. And so each year, the first event is in August, and it's called Speed Week, and that's the one that gets a lot of national coverage. It gets the most vehicles and racing entries that show up there, and both motorcycles and cars. And there'll be roughly 600 vehicles at these events. And then with those vehicles, you know, everyone brings 4 or 5 people out with them, and then there's a lot of spectators that come out to watch, and there's a lot of car clubs that make their annual meets out there, so they'll have a lot of, you know, classic cars and hot rods and things show up at the Salt Flats to spectate. And there's car shows in the nearby town of Wendover every evening, and it's just kind of a whole culture and a good get together for a lot of similar minded individuals.
So like thousands of people?
Yeah, there's several thousand.
600 cars, 3 more, thousands of people?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you describe this as a dried up lake bed. So it's essentially a desert. It's very arid, and salt is corrosive, and it gets really, really hot.
Correct.
So how do you and the car handle that 100-degree plus potential weather and temperatures during this?
Right. Yeah, it's hot. There's no shade or anything out there, so you do have to bring all your own shade. But, you know, when you get into line to race, you just line up your car. You might sit in line for 2 hours waiting for your turn to race. So you're sitting in the pickup truck, the push truck, or trying to find any shade you can, keep the AC running.
Wear a hat?
Yeah, lots of hats, sunscreen. it is hot. I mean, a day out there is probably in the mid 90s during most days, but the way the sun reflects off the salt, there's nothing in the air to block the sunlight. It feels significantly warmer than that.
Is there a breeze, wind?
There's generally no breeze or wind, not until the evening. Because if there is a wind, then they shut the racing down, because you can't have wind blowing across the track and pushing the cars around, because it will, at those kind of speeds, really push your car off the track. So 10 miles an hour is the max wind speed that they'll allow racing to happen at.
How many miles?
10.
10 miles an
Yeah.
hour. Wow. Okay. The general public, we're used to driving on like asphalt, dirt.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like to drive on the salt? You know, is it crunchy like ice? Is it slick?
It can be crunchy. They drag the track with big steel bars to smooth it out, to get all the ridges down and smooth it out as much as possible. But it is still a little bit loose, and there's ridges and ruts as you drive down the track. So if your wheels kind of catch a ridge, it'll move the car to the left or right. The track's about 50 feet wide, and you'll cover at least 2/3 of that 50-foot range during a pass, as your car moves across the ruts and things that get carved in, because 100 plus cars are running on this thing a day, so it gets some grooves in there. But it feels pretty stable, because the speed of your car going down the track actually stabilizes the car. The wind pulling over the car is helping keep it straight. There's a big spoiler on the back that's helping to stabilize the vehicle as well. So it feels pretty solid, but it's just those grooves and ruts that you're catching as you go through that shift your car around makes it. It can make you, tense up a little bit from time to time. But the advice I've gotten from others is to not ever try to steer the car where you want it to go. You let the car steer itself where it wants to go. You just kind of keep a loose grip on the wheel, and it will go straight if you let it. So that's what you do.
That's terrifying. Is there a change in the track from racing early in the morning to racing in the afternoon? And are you the first person down the track of the day, or are you the 200th car down the track? Is there a difference?
The surface can kind of break up as the more vehicles go over it. It'll create kind of a loose surface layer on the track. So from the early morning to the late afternoon, the track can get a little bit looser and a little softer. The temperature is what has a big effect on the engine performance. So the air in the morning is more dense, it's cooler, and the engines perform better than in a hot afternoon. The air is thinner, the pressure altitude is actually higher. So in the afternoon, the pressure altitude can be 7,800 feet, and in the morning it's 4,500 feet above sea level. So you can get a pretty significant performance increase just by making a run early in the morning versus late in the afternoon.
Wow. Now we know what salt does to our vehicles here in the wintertime in the Midwest. How does that corrosive environment impact this high performance car? What is the cleanup procedures after the race?
Yeah, the salt corrodes everything just the same as it does here. So the truck that we tow the car out there with and push the car around, that gets covered in salt. The trailer gets covered in salt. All the equipment and the car gets coated in a layer of salt. The tools, everything comes back. So you have to wash everything. The car gets completely disassembled every year to get all the salt out of all the joints and areas where it can collect. The push truck gets power washed and cleaned. The tools all get wiped down with WD-40, and it's quite a cleanup process. Everything gets washed, a lot of water and rinsing to get all the salt off.
Right.
And there's things to do to protect it. There's coatings to spray on that will help prevent the salt from sticking to surfaces, but they're not 100% salt proof, so there's still salt to clean up, but it does help it fall off easier, because it can get, say the salt goes on wet and then it dries, then it's caked on,
Right.
and that makes it even tougher to remove. But it will start rusting things out almost immediately, especially when you get it back to the humid Nebraska summer after being out at the flats. That moisture just gets sucked right into the salt and starts corroding whatever it's touching.
Do you start the cleanup process right away?
Yeah.
You don't let it sit?
Yep.
Okay. How long does that take?
The initial is about a week to get everything cleaned up, and then it continues on through the winter as things get further cleaned and reassembled then in preparation for the next year.
All right. Well, nobody reaches 200 miles an hour by themselves. So who's on your crew? Who's on your team to make this happen?
Well, I got several people that have helped me out over the years. It's not consistent every year that the same people are able to go, but it is asking people to take, use their vacation and time to come out and help me race, and I appreciate all that they've done to do that. But I mean, my dad's helped me early on in getting prepared and getting set up. And then I've had a friend of mine named Eldon Steggy. He goes out pretty much every year with me since about 2012. As of recently, my wife's been going out the last couple of years, and she's gotten really into it as well, so it's great to have her support. Mike Gablehouse, he's the one that's helped me with learning how to build engines for this environment. He builds a lot of sprint car engines, so he taught me a lot of tricks on engine building, and actually I've used his shop to put my engines together, and so that's where I do my engine assembly at, is over at his place. John McKeegan and Tim Schultz, they were the ones that really helped me get going into the hobby. The first record I set back in 2008, Tim put an engine together for that I was able to use for that record. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some names in there, but yeah, several other.
Are they Duncan Aviation employees? Some or no?
No. Oh, Lou Williams is a Duncan Aviation ex-employee now. He just recently retired, but he spent several years going out there with me as well. So just being part of the crew. The social aspect of going out there is just as important as the racing. There's people from all over the world that come to this event every year, either bringing cars or just themselves to spectate, and it's you see the same people every year, and it's kind of like a big reunion or a get together. So yeah, a lot of long lasting relationships are built.
You said it was 15 acre or
yeah, there's about a 15-mile stretch where the salt is good enough to drive on and race on.
Do people camp out there? Is there like a camp? People pull their campers out on the salt and.
Yeah, there's a camping area that's designated for camping. So that's a huge.
Do you do that?
I haven't camped. I usually stay. Pardon me. So the town close by is called Wendover, and there's several hotels and casinos and stuff in that town because it's right on the Nevada border. So that's where a lot of people stay, and then some people do camp right on the salt with campers or tents or in their van or whatever they may bring out. Sleep in the car.
Roughing it.
It's there's no services like when you're pulling your camper out there. There's nothing to plug into. It's just your camper.
You bring what you need.
Yeah, whatever.
And you take it away when you're done.
Exactly.
Have you started the preparation for this? Are you going this year?
Yeah, the plan is to go this year. So yeah.
Have you started preparation for the summer?
So the engine that's been in the car has been in there for about 9 years, and so it's worn out. So I have it apart right now, and I'm putting a new engine together for it.
Are you going to be in a different class, or are you going to?
I will be. I'm going to move up to the next engine size, just because I needed to. The cylinders required getting cleaned up, and so that's when you do that, you have to bore the cylinders oversized, and that increased the cubic inch diameter to put me in the next class. So, putting the engine back together, it'll be in the B class instead of the C class now.
Okay.
So in this case, the record is actually lower than the class I've been running in. The record I was trying to hit with this C motor was 245 miles an hour. and I had ran 241. So I hadn't quite hit that. And now I'm going to go into this B class, and the record is 239 miles an hour in that class. So
Want to break that this
I
year?
will hopefully get that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully get that record in my name this year.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your personal best is 241.
Correct.
What is going through your mind at that speed? I mean, what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I'm watching all the gauges, making sure oil pressure looks good, watching my tachometer because I'm shifting, making sure I'm hitting all my shift points. You're just feeling what the car is doing, how it's acting. Am I losing traction? Is it stable? Does it feel light? Does it feel like it's lifting off of the ground or anything like that? Because that happens out there. I mean, cars will catch a wind gust or something. It'll actually lift them off the ground, and they'll flip over or do something wild like that. I've spun around. I haven't. I've never rolled the car or anything like that, but I have spun out in the past. So that is quite a ride.
Do you see? It's flat and it's 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the finish line when you start?
Mm-mm.
You can't. Okay.
No, you can't see and there's certain conditions. If you happen to run late in the evening at like 6 o'clock, the sun's at a point that you can't actually see the end of the track from the start. So it's rare, but it does happen at certain times of the day. But typically, no, you're watching the mile flags go by. So they have the miles marked at mile 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
So you know where you are in the race.
Yeah, because so the timing, you have 2 miles to get up to speed. And then they start timing you at mile number 3, and then take your time at mile number 4, and then mile number 5. And if your speed exceeds the current record at any of those 3 points, you now have qualified for that record. So now to actually solidify that, you need to make a backup run, and they do those the following morning, and you have to do the same thing. And
you have to break it twice.
Yeah, you have to break it twice.
Okay.
And it has to be at the same mile marker. So say you broke it at mile 4, you have to break it at mile 4 again on the next pass.
You have a parachute stop?
Mm-hmm.
What's it feel like when that parachute pops?
It's a lot of G-force. It tries to throw you through you feel it trying to throw you out the front windshield of the car. Yeah.
Okay.
There's more force on the slowdown than there is on the acceleration.
Okay. Wow.
And you can run 1 or 2 parachutes. I just have 1. You can also run a high-speed parachute where it slows you down a little bit slower, so you don't have that initial hit that takes so much speed out in one shot. But at the speeds I'm running, 1 parachute's okay. If I was getting up closer to 300 miles an hour, then 2 parachutes would be necessary.
Is that a goal?
That is a goal, yeah. That is the goal.
A different engine, though?
Yeah, that'll take another engine. That won't be this next one.
Will it still be in this car?
I'd like to do it in this car, yeah.
I think it's
capable of handling that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I can imagine safety is a very top priority in racing. What kind of precautions or procedures do you have in place for your safety in your car?
All right. There's the seat's called a full containment seat. So it wraps around your sides, it wraps around your neck, your head, and in case there was an accident or anything, it keeps you from moving around very much. It keeps you kind of locked in place. You have your 5-point racing harness that keeps you snug down into that seat. I'm wearing a helmet and a fire suit that's rated to be in a direct fire for 2 minutes before anything would pass through it.
Right.
There's fire bottles installed in the car, so if there was a fire either in the engine compartment or in the passenger compartment, I have levers that I can pull to activate those and snuff the fire out. And then the parachute, that's used to slow down. It's also used if, like in a spin, you pull your parachute, that'll catch and that'll straighten you out and stop the spin from continuing on.
Is that what you had to do?
That's what I did, yeah, when I spun out this last time.
What mile marker was that you spun out?
That was at the mile 4 marker.
Was it in this current car?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What caused the spin?
There was a piece of the suspension, a weld had cracked, and it was letting the suspension walk back and forth more than is supposed to, and it was kind of fishtailing a little bit on me, and I should have just stopped and pulled off at that point, but I thought I could keep it going and was not able to. It did spin out. So
what goes through your head while you're doing
well, I was
spin?
I was just hoping it stayed on the ground and didn't lift off when it went backwards. But once it went around and I knew I wasn't gonna come off the ground, then it was just kind of fun.
All right.
Letting it ride. I was over 240 miles an hour. I was actually at about 250 according to my tachometer when I spun out that time.
So that was a record you were going.
I would have cleared at that one. That's why I was trying to hold it and not shut down.
I can do it.
Yeah,
I can do it.
Like, gotta hold it. But
all right, 3 words to describe the Bonneville Salt Flats.
3 words. I'd say smooth. Just it's exciting and satisfying.
What's louder, a jet engine in the test cell or your Trans Am screaming down the lane?
Oh, a jet engine in the test cell.
Is it?
It's gonna beat that, yeah.
You would say.
But I've never. They're probably pretty similar in sound, because I've been in an engine dyno room where I've had my engine on the dyno running, and it's significantly louder than it is in the car, because you have 4 walls around you, and it's containing all that sound in a room, and the test cell is similar. It's doing the same thing, so they're probably similar if you had your ears right up next to the car. But in the wide open spaces of the flats, it lets that sound dissipate over a wide range.
I guess I wouldn't have imagined that it's so quiet. That it's quiet when you race, but you kind of leave the sound behind you when you take.
The sound's behind you. Plus, you're in a helmet that has some pretty thick padding, and it's covering your ears, so it really blocks out a lot of the sound.
Wow. Okay, the dream. If you could put any jet engine in your race car, which would it be and why?
Oh boy, it would just be something with an afterburner on it, because that's what's going to get you.
And what would that be?
Oh, they've had success using some Rolls-Royce
Oh yeah?
Tay engines with afterburners on them out there. So
that's exciting. Scott, well, that's all I have. I appreciate you sharing your story. It is exciting to hear what you have planned for your department, and we're excited to see what comes in the next chapter of your life. But
right on.
thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Diane. Appreciate it.
All right.